Imagine an entirely healthy person, right?
Mm.
And they become completely, utterly convinced that they've been cursed.
Like a literal, actual
A
curse.
literal curse.
Yeah.
And over the next few weeks, they lose their appetite, they stop sleeping. Then their organs actually begin to shut down and they die.
Wow.
Yeah. There is no poison. There's no underlying viral disease. There is just this sheer, brute biological power of a belief.
That is wild.
It is. So welcome to the deep dive. We are examining a really perspective-shifting text today called The Yielding World. It's about how reality bends to belief and, how belief might bend to reality.
And it's such a profound premise, honestly, because it forces us to confront this fundamental illusion we all have. We usually just walk around operating on the assumption that reality is this indifferent, solid thing out there.
Yeah, totally independent of us.
Exactly. And that our beliefs are just these fragile little internal states trying to accurately map that external world. But what we are going to explore today is how reality and belief are actually locked together in this recursive loop.
A loop, right?
Yeah. So what you believe shapes what you notice. What you notice shapes what you do. What you do changes what happens. And then what happens confirms your belief. It's not mysticism. It's just the biological and social structure of the mind.
Okay, let's unpack this. Well, let's unpack this because before we can even talk about how belief shapes reality, we first have to completely dismantle the idea that perception is passive.
Oh, absolutely. The old camera analogy.
Right. The idea that your eyes are like a camera lens and your brain is just a screen playing the live feed. But if the brain isn't a passive receiver, what is it actually doing in that dark skull of ours?
It is operating as a prediction machine.
Okay.
If we look at the framework of predictive processing, and I'm thinking of theorists like Carl Friston and Andy Clark here, the biological reality of the brain is just fascinating. Your brain is locked in a vault of bone, right? It has no direct access to the outside world.
It's completely dark in there.
Completely dark. It only receives ambiguous electrical signals from your sensory organs. So to make sense of those signals, it constantly generates a model of what is probably out there.
Like it's guessing.
Exactly. It uses your prior experiences and expectations to guess what's going to happen next.
So it's essentially hallucinating reality and just checking those hallucinations against sensory data.
Precisely. Perception isn't passive reception. It is active inference. The brain projects its predictions outward.
Wow.
And it only actually updates its internal model when the sensory data coming in violently disagrees with the prediction.
A prediction error.
Right, exactly. But as long as the data is close enough, your brain just runs its priors.
It makes me think of the reticular activating system, the RAS. From the text, it's the classic red car phenomenon.
Oh, perfect example.
Yeah. You buy a red car, and suddenly, everywhere you look, you see red cars. Your eyes were always receiving the visual data of those cars on the highway, but your brain's filtering algorithm basically deemed them irrelevant.
You filtered them out.
Right, so you never consciously perceived them. But now that you own one, the red car is relevant, so it gets through the gate.
What's fascinating here is that this isn't a failure of rationality, or some kind of cognitive defect. It is the brain's economy in action.
Economy. How so?
Well, the nervous system receives an overwhelming, frankly impossible amount of sensory data every millisecond.
Right.
If you processed all of it, you would be totally paralyzed. The brain has to filter it, and it uses your beliefs as the sorting algorithm.
But that filtering gets incredibly dark when you apply it to social situations.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
If your core prior is that people are fundamentally unkind or that you are inherently unlikable, the RAS goes to work proving you right.
It finds the evidence.
It does. Suddenly, it's someone not holding the elevator, or a slight pause before a colleague answers your question, or just a neutral resting face on the subway.
Right.
All of that gets filtered in as hard empirical evidence of unkindness. The actual world hasn't changed. The filter has.
Exactly. And the staggering implication here is that two people can be standing in the exact same room looking at the exact same event and genuinely inhabit entirely different experiential worlds.
That is wild.
You aren't both seeing objective reality and then arguing about what it means. You are literally perceiving different realities based on the predictive models your brains are running.
So for you listening right now, just consider what your own RAS is actively filtering in or out today based on whatever your immediate fears or desires are.
It's a sobering thought.
It really is. It's wild to realize your moment-to-moment reality is highly curated.
Yeah.
But filtering out red cars or misinterpreting a text message is one thing. What happens when the brain's prediction algorithm decides to physically alter the body?
That's the leap.
Yeah, because the premise of the yielding world doesn't stop at perception. It moves into literal flesh and blood.
Right. This is where we shift from cognitive confirmation bias, which is already powerful, right? The self-sealing loops you mentioned.
Yeah.
But we shift from that into deep biology, specifically the placebo effect.
Okay, right.
Most of us understand the basic placebo. You know, you believe a pill will cure your headache, so your headache goes away. But the mechanisms are what matter. It's not magic. Belief itself is the active biological ingredient.
Literally the active ingredient.
Yes. When you expect pain relief, your prefrontal cortex communicates with your brainstem to literally release endogenous opioids,
Wow.
your body's own natural painkillers. In Parkinson's patients, just expecting a treatment causes the brain to synthesize and release measurable amounts of dopamine.
Wait, I have to push back here, though,
Mm-hmm.
because I've read about open-label placebos from the text, and that just completely breaks my understanding of this.
The open label ones are fascinating.
Right. Like, a doctor can explicitly hand you a bottle and say, this is a fake sugar pill, it has absolutely no medicine in it, and it still produces physiological changes for conditions like irritable bowel syndrome or chronic back pain.
It's so counterintuitive.
How does the brain not just say, nice try, doc, and cancel the dopamine release?
It's a brilliant question. It really comes down to Pavlovian conditioning and the context of care.
Context of care.
Yeah. Even if your conscious, rational mind knows it's a sugar pill, your deeper nervous system recognizes the ritual.
The ritual.
Right. The act of going to a clinic, seeing the white coat, the physical swallowing of a pill your body has learned over a lifetime that this sequence of events is followed by healing.
So the body just runs the script.
Exactly. That deeply ingrained somatic expectation bypasses your conscious skepticism entirely. It triggers the hypothalamus and the autonomic nervous system to begin the healing cascade anyway.
That is just incredible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it means the reverse must also be true. If expectation can heal, expectation can harm.
Yes, the dark inverse is the nocebo effect, and it is equally powerful. Negative expectations cause physical damage.
Wow.
If a doctor tells a patient a procedure will be highly painful, that patient will physically experience significantly more pain than someone who wasn't warned, because their nervous system amplifies the pain signals in anticipation.
So it's preparing for it.
Right. Or consider electromagnetic sensitivity.
Oh, wait.
People report severe physical symptoms from Wi-Fi routers, but controlled studies show the symptoms trigger even when the router is unplugged. The belief causes the biological distress.
Which goes right back to the curse example I mentioned at the start. I've always struggled to understand how a hex could actually work without poison.
It's terrifying.
Isn't dying from a curse just like a panic attack taken to the extreme? How does a belief actually suppress the immune system to the point of organ failure?
It's an extreme cascade of the stress response. When a person genuinely believes they are doomed, especially when their entire cultural worldview supports the reality of that curse, the brain registers an inescapable existential threat.
So full panic mode.
Yes. The amygdala goes into hyperdrive. It signals the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands to flood the body with cortisol and adrenaline.
And cortisol is toxic in high doses.
Very toxic. A temporary spike keeps you alive if a tiger is chasing you. But a massive, unrelenting flood of cortisol over weeks. It literally tears the body apart.
Oh my God.
It shuts down digestion, it strips the immune system's ability to fight off opportunistic infections, and causes severe inflammation. The heart gives out, or an infection takes over. The belief writes the biological reality.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If our beliefs can rewrite our own biology from the inside out, what do they do to the people around us?
The ripple effect.
Yeah, pulling the lens back from the individual body to society.
At the social level, we encounter the self-fulfilling prophecy, a term coined by the sociologist Robert Merton.
Right.
Merton's classic example is a bank run. You have a perfectly healthy, solvent bank, but a rumor starts a completely false belief that the bank is failing.
So people panic.
They panic. They run to the bank and withdraw all their cash. And because banks don't hold everyone's cash on hand, the mass withdrawal causes the bank to actually fail.
So the false belief literally generated the exact reality it predicted.
Exactly.
It reminds me of the Pygmalion effect in education, which is simultaneously beautiful and, frankly, Terrifying.
Oh, the Rosenthal-Jacobson study.
Yes.
Yeah.
Researchers went into schools and told teachers that a random handful of perfectly average students were actually late bloomers who were on the verge of massive intellectual leaps.
And the kids were totally random.
Completely random. The teachers believed the researchers, though, and by the end of the year, those specific random students actually produced significantly more academic growth than their peers.
And it's vital to understand how that happens. It wasn't telepathy.
Right, right.
Because the teachers believed those students were gifted, their microbehaviors changed, they held eye contact just a fraction of a second longer, they waited a bit longer for those students to answer a question before interrupting, they provided warmer vocal tones and more nuanced feedback.
And over hundreds of days, all those micro-expressions and that extended patience alter the child's own neurochemistry and self-concept.
Exactly.
The child feels safer, they take more intellectual risks, and they actually become smarter. The teacher's internal belief literally altered the developmental trajectory of a child's brain.
Which brings us to the ultimate macro level.
Yeah.
How do these beliefs get so deeply ingrained in our culture that we don't even see them anymore? The answer is language.
Language is like an operating system we don't even know we're running.
It really is.
There's this concept in linguistics from the text, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which suggests that the structure of a language dictates how its speakers perceive the world.
Right.
Like how the Russian language has separate distinct words for light blue and dark blue. Because they have to constantly categorize those colors in speech, Russian speakers can physically distinguish shades of blue faster than English speakers.
Their visual cortex is literally trained by their grammar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or indigenous cultures that arrange time east to west rather than past to future.
Through language, beliefs become entirely invisible. They stop being ideas that we actively debate. They become what the text calls the furniture of the world.
The furniture of the world. I love that phrase.
It's so apt. When a belief is baked into the very vocabulary and grammar you used to think, you no longer see it as a subjective stance. It is just the undeniable, objective way things are.
Okay, so if language and expectations are completely boxing us in like this, how can we possibly trust our own minds when we think we're right?
That is the big question.
If our beliefs seal themselves in loops, and if they alter our biology and they build the invisible furniture of our world, how do we ever realize when we are fundamentally wrong?
This is the crux of the problem, and it's where the second half of the text really digs in. We have to separate psychology from epistemology.
Could you break that down?
Psychology explains how beliefs form, which we've seen is often automatic, biased by the RAS, and socially driven. Epistemology is the study of how beliefs ought to form, how we justify them. Changing a deeply held belief isn't just updating a data point on a spreadsheet.
Right, it's a small death, as they call it, because our beliefs are identity constitutive.
Exactly. Your beliefs are the load-bearing walls of your identity. They dictate your friend groups, your habits, your self-worth. To admit you are wrong about a core belief is to threaten the entire structure of your social and psychological life.
It's scary.
Very. The resistance to changing a belief isn't just stubbornness. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism protecting your identity.
I want to zero in on a really profound line from the text. The phenomenology of being wrong is identical to the phenomenology of being right.
Yes.
Like, I want to share a really mundane example of this. I remember vividly arguing with my partner about where I left the car keys. I had this crystalline, high-definition memory of leaving them on the kitchen counter. I felt the absolute righteous certainty of being right.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. And then I reached into my coat pocket and felt the metal of the keys, the sheer vertigo of that moment.
Yeah.
Before I found the keys, being wrong felt exactly the same as being right.
It is a profound realization. Certainty is just a biological sensation, a neurochemical state. It feels identical to truth. And because of this, the error signal, the alarm bell that tells you your prediction model is failing, almost never comes from inside your own feeling of certainty.
It has to come from outside friction.
Yes.
Yeah.
From reality pushing back against the hallucination. And cultivating the ability to accept that friction requires epistemic humility.
Epistemic humility.
It doesn't mean walking around paralyzed, pretending you don't know anything. It means calibrating your confidence accurately. It's the active recognition that your vantage point is fundamentally incomplete and that the very architecture of your brain is designed to hide your blind spots from you to save energy.
So, since we literally cannot trust our own feeling of certainty, what actual tools does the text give us to reality test our minds? What is the toolkit here?
The first tool is the active cultivation of disconfirmation, which is deeply rooted in Karl Popper's falsificationism.
Oh,
Normally, when we have a belief, we ask, what evidence proves I'm right? But as we know, your RAS will happily fetch that evidence for you all day long.
right, it's eager to please.
Exactly. Instead, you must rigorously ask yourself, what would have to be true for me to be wrong?
What would have to be true for me to be wrong? Man, that is a deeply uncomfortable question. You're forcing yourself to act as a hostile prosecutor against your own cherished identity.
It is deeply uncomfortable, but that discomfort is the exact friction you need to break the recursive loop.
Right.
The second tool is learning to rigorously distinguish between perception and inference.
Oh, like distinguishing between seeing someone and immediately thinking she is angry at me.
Exactly.
That's an inference. The actual perception, the raw data hitting the retina, is just her jaw muscles are tightened and her vocal tone is flat.
Yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, philosophers in the phenomenological tradition like Edmund Husserl and Maurice Merleau-Ponty, they spent their entire careers wrestling with this exact problem.
Geeking out a bit here. I love it.
Oh, for sure. They developed rigorous methods to try and return to the things themselves, trying to strip away the brain's automatic layers of interpretation.
Stripping away the inference.
Right. We see this mirrored in contemplative practices worldwide, too. Cultivating a witness consciousness where you observe a stimulus, a tight jaw, a delayed email, without immediately letting your brain attach a panicked narrative to it.
You are intentionally creating a gap.
Exactly, a gap between the raw data and your brain's rapid-fire inference engine.
Because we are obsessive narrative creatures, we don't just process data, we instantly write a story about it.
Right.
And to revise a belief, we often have to engage in narrative revision.
The storied self.
Right. Reauthoring our past events, intentionally noticing the evidence we previously ignored to maintain our favorite story about who we are. And it's not just an intellectual exercise in our heads, it's happening in our bodies too.
Oh, the somatic aspect is huge.
Yeah. Think about your own body right now, you listening to us. Do you have tension in your shoulder girdle? Is your breathing shallow? Physical tension can literally be the somatic signature of a belief.
That's exactly right. A deeply held belief that the world is a threatening place doesn't just live in your prefrontal cortex, it lives in your raised shoulders, your locked jaw, your hyper-vigilant posture.
Wow.
Conversely, a belief in your own agency and safety has a physically expansive texture. Sometimes you can access and change a belief through somatic practices, movement, deep breathing, posture shifts, even before your conscious intellectual mind catches up. The body is a crucial site of epistemic access.
Okay, but everything we've talked about in this toolkit, falsification, perception versus inference, breath work, it sounds incredibly solitary. Like I'm just sitting alone in a room, desperately trying to fix my own prediction machine. But we can't do this alone, can we?
We absolutely cannot. This brings us to Helen Longino's concept of social epistemology. Knowledge is fundamentally a social enterprise.
So we need other people.
Desperately. Individual reason, no matter how rigorous, is entirely insufficient to overcome individual bias. We need diverse epistemic communities. We need people who hold completely different priors, who genuinely disagree with us, to point out the inferences we are mistaking for objective perceptions.
And it goes beyond just trying to be accurate for your own sake. It's actually a moral imperative, right? W.K. Clifford's famous 1877 essay, The Ethics of Belief, argues this beautifully.
It really does. Clifford argued that believing without sufficient evidence isn't just a private quirk or a harmless personal right.
Right.
It is a moral failure because, as we saw with the bank runs, the doctors, and the teachers, our beliefs inevitably leak out. They shape the social and biological reality of everyone around us.
So our beliefs are contagious.
Very contagious. The rigidity or the humility with which you hold your beliefs is quite literally a form of ethical conduct toward your fellow human beings.
So what does this all mean? Like, does this mean we just surrender completely to empirical reality?
What do you mean?
Well, if the world is currently unjust or broken or discriminatory, do we just accept it because that's the evidence currently in front of our eyes?
No, that is the vital caveat from the text. There are times when belief must lead reality.
Okay, must lead it.
Think of immense social changes, deep personal transformations, or massive technological leaps. Those all require holding a belief in something that is not yet empirically true, specifically in order to make it true.
But how is that any different from just pure wishful thinking or delusion?
The difference between wishful thinking and visionary commitment is the quality of the ongoing dialogue with reality.
Dialogues with reality.
Right, a visionary holds a bold, unverified belief about what is possible, but they remain profoundly open to learning from friction. They try something, reality pushes back, and they revise their methods. Wishful thinking, on the other hand, seals itself off into an immune fortress and denies the pushback. The ideal state isn't passive reception, and it isn't projecting delusions onto the world. It is a sustained, humble, and active conversation between what you hold to be true and what the world insists upon returning in response.
It's a recursive loop, but a highly conscious one.
Beautifully put.
So to summarize our deep dive, reality doesn't just hand itself to us on a silver platter, It is actively produced in part by what we expect to see. But to live a conscious life, we have to fiercely cultivate the discipline to bend our beliefs back to reality.
Absolutely.
We have to use humility, robust communities of disagreement, and our own bodily awareness to constantly check our assumptions. Both directions of the loop matter. Reality bending to belief is a power we have to understand. Belief bending to reality is a discipline we have to master.
Which raises an important question to leave you with, one that builds on everything we've explored today about language, expectations, and biology.
I love a good final provocation. Let's hear it.
If our culturally inherited language literally builds the invisible furniture of the world, and if the nocebo effect proves that negative expectations physically, biologically harm us at a cellular level,
Yeah.
what are our cultural beliefs about aging doing to us?
Oh, wow.
Right. If we fully expect our bodies to decline in very specific, inevitable ways at a certain age, because that's the story our culture relentlessly tells us, is that decline purely empirical reality? Or is it a massive, culturally induced, self-fulfilling prophecy?
Just a giant nocebo effect.
Exactly. Are we literally aging ourselves through the nocebo effect of our own collective beliefs?
That is definitely something to sit with the next time you look in the mirror. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, deeply question your inferences, and, be mindful of the recursive loop you are living in today.